I got a cross versus fight between two women. The first characters from One Piece. We know her as Charlotte Linlin, one of the Yonkos. She was one of the Yonkos before she was dethroned. Her name's Big Mom Charlotte Linlin, right? Soul Fruit, all three types of hockey. She has a history of being a great pirate, right? Or, one of the more powerful pirates, we'll say. Now, on the other side, we have Tsunade. She's the granddaughter of Hashirama. She's a medical ninja and she's also a, boxer a little bit. Not like, too much, you know, always. But she is a boxer, she's strong physically. She'll fucking break your ribs, right? That kind of thing. She also knows 100 healing techniques. She can, heal her wounds, right? Um, and she can summon Katsuyu. She's one of the legendary Sannin that became the fifth Hokage, and fought against Madara in the Fourth Great Shinobi War, alongside the other Kages, of course. But this is gonna have two scenarios. The first scenario, they're gonna be in One Piece, and they're gonna be fighting at in Wano. They'll be fighting in Wano on Onigashima. And then the second scenario, they'll be fighting in the Cloud Village, where Killer B fought against Sasuke. Random ass spots, I know, but I want them to fight there. First fight, strength going to Linlin. It's basically like this. Linlin is strong. Tsunade is strong physically. They can lift a lot. They can, deal striking damage that, damages their opponent. But the thing that got me was I'm saying basically Big Mom is stronger because she's the bigger person. The bigger person, she can, do damage to a bigger area. And I ain't saying Tsunade is weak. I'm not saying that at all. I think Tsunade can pick Big Mom up and, throw it around. But I also think Big Mom can, throw Tsunade around too. Now, speed, though, goes to Tsunade. Tsunade definitely has the speed. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. She's not fast like that. Not in her old age, she ain't doing shit like that. Durability goes to Big Mom, though. It ain't gonna be easy for her to damage Big Mom, but I think that during the fight, it's gonna take some time before she could get past that armor because she has armament hockey, right? Big Mom does. And then endurance, I'm also giving that shit to Linlin. Linlin has armament hockey, and then that helps to stay in the fight longer. One thing that helps to stay in the fight longer. She has a double fruit. She can create homies. Tsunade ain't gonna be afraid of her. Tsunade has things going for her too, though. Like the 100 healings helps her, stay in the fight longer. But that's chakra usage. When you use chakra, it's not like using your devil fruit. Devil fruit users be like not running out of their devil fruit ever. Like you can't run out of energy to use your devil. You're basically running out of steam. It's not the same as you expending energy on a jutsu. That actually takes more energy to do. But Naruto fans might not agree. They can comment about that if they want to. Endurance, I'm giving that shit to Big Mom. She fought against Kaido for a couple of days. I don't see Tsunade fighting people for days. The only thing she did was fight against Hanzo for a while, but she had help from Jiraiya and Orochimaru in that bout. Intelligence, I give it to Tsunade. Out of these women, they're older women, but she has her mind still. She can still think. That's why she was the Hokage. Big Mom's a pirate, though. She's not leading a like, government or a community. She's leading her, family. I wouldn't say it's a community. It's more like a, crime syndicate gang. But they respect her for who she was in the past. She ain't that smart, though. Experience though goes to Big Mom because she does have experience, and I ain't saying Tsunade don't. She's seen many of wars and Naruto and other things, but you know Linlin was a part of the Rocks Pirates, and even before she was a part of the Rocks Pirates, she was running through kingdoms with a man named Truson and going after the finest confectionaries and killing, people for not giving her the food, right? Her shit started young. She started, running that shit as a pirate young, right? Close skills go to Tsunade. Range skills going to Linlin. She has her homies that fly around. She has, Napoleon. She could use that one move she used to try to cut Luffy with. She has, um, like I said, Prometheus and Hera. Shooting lightning, shooting fire at her opponents. And any other homies she decides to create out of like the environment. Maybe. Recoup goes to Tsunade. Even though Big Mom does, try to, recoup herself a little bit. She breaks her bones, she can fix her bones, but that's not, enough. Not against, Tsunade's regenerative abilities. When it comes to hacks, I'm giving it to, Big Mom, not not Tsunade. Tsunade has 100 healing techniques. She has, brute strength. She has summoning of Katsuyi. Big Mom has future sight, observation hockey. She has armament hockey. She has conquers hockey. She has her double fruit. And the environment in the first scenario actually goes to Tsunade, even though they're fighting in Onigashima, because she does have that win condition where she can get, Big Mom in the water. But even so, I still got Big Mom winning that shit high difficulty. Because even though she can fall in the water, what did we see in the anime? We seen the homie come to save her, and her homies are like that loyal. They're like, oh shit, she's in the water. Let me go save her, and they pick her up real quick. I give the fight to Big Mom. High difficulty, she wins. In the next scenario, they're fighting in the Hidden Cloud Village. Strength goes to Linlin, speed goes to Tsunade, durability goes to Linlin, endurance goes to Linlin, intelligence goes to Tsunade, experience goes to Linlin, close skills go to Tsunade, range skills go to Linlin, recoup goes to Tsunade, and then the hacks go to Linlin. With the environment actually going to Linlin in this case. There's no water that she has to worry about. There's no ocean water she has to worry about. So she can, fight freely and not have to worry about it. With that being said, that fight's also, even if it's in Naruto, high difficulty in favor of Linlin. Linlin's gonna win that. I like Tsunade. I like the look. I like the aesthetic. I like how she's a Hokage. Big Mom, I actually don't care for Big Mom, especially old Big Mom, looks wise and all that. But this is a fight, right? And I'm talking Big Mom's winning that shit high difficulty, over Tsunade. But Naruto fans and One Piece fans alike, let me know in the comments who you think wins and your thoughts on it. And be cool, call on the corner.